Hello and welcome back. My name is Mr. Cotman and this is a Twisted Treeline video. In this video I'm going to be going over who is viable on this map, what are good picks, and what are bad picks. So let's tackle the big question first. Who is viable? Well, in short, every champion is viable in their own way slash if you are able to pull it off. And what I kind of mean by pulling it off is that some champions in terms of mechanics are harder than others, such as Vayne. Vayne can do extremely well on this map, but you really have to work on your positioning since there are a lot of walls and really tight quarters that you can't just go, let's say, on Summoner's Rift and you're fighting in the mid lane and you have a lot of space to just tumble around. But if done correctly, Vayne is one of the most hyper carry maps on Twisted Treeline, just based on the sole fact that not only does she scale with items, but the other champions that she's facing will most likely build health to stay in fights longer, and that's when you really become effective. Another way to determine how viable a champion is based on the fact whether or not you help your team in team fights. Since this map is so revolved around team fights, if you can team fight more effectively than the other team, you will have a higher chance of winning based on this alone. So to just make things easier to understand, I'll just use Brand first as your typical mage that you could use. Even though Brand doesn't get a lot of light shed on him in Summoner's Rift, as he's primarily outclassed by other mages, on Twisted Treeline I feel he's one of the more stronger AP carries, because not only does he have great burst damage, and his team fight's actually really good, he has a passive that works extremely well with champions who stack health, and when combined with Blackfire Torch, this effect gets even stronger. So not only does he scale with items and getting more damage on his abilities, but he also scales with how much the enemies are building health. If done correctly, Brand can be a great mage at catching people off guard, as his stun leaves him enough opportunity window to 100-0 somebody. And also his ability to completely transition into teamfight mode is something that I also value about him, as he can have multiple ways of dealing damage and comboing his abilities depending on the situation, to where if you want more single target damage you can do so, if you need more AoE damage you could do so, and his ultimate is something that people often forget of how much damage it can deal. Another mage that I like to use on Twisted Treeline is Janna, as she's more of a support, and the way that I play her is more of a supportish mage, where if I need to help my teammates, I'll help them, but if they need damage to finish people off, I will output the necessary damage possible for them to do so. And the way that I do this is by peeling for my teammates, helping out when necessary with shields, and later on in the game when I have more ability power, my ultimate will be that much better to keep my teammates in the fight. Not only to mention, she has great ratios on her Q and her W even after the nerfs, due to AP Janna becoming too strong in Summoner's Rift. Another support mage that you can use is Karma, as she's pretty much the same thing as Janna support wise, but she brings a little bit more sustained damage. And the way that I build supportish AP mage Janna is by getting CDR first and then worrying about damage later, as then I can pump out my shields faster, get more knockups, get more slows, and then potentially get a shorter cooldown on my ultimate. The same thing goes for Bruisers. as you can pretty much play whatever you want as long as it's within reason and you can play it effectively with your team. Just like how I mentioned in the basic Twisted Treeline video that I made, junglers picking up Smite versus Exhaust or Ignite is still something that's very debatable, and also what's very debatable is whether or not you need a jungler. Through my experiences on the new Twisted Treeline map and the old Twisted Treeline map, I've always found junglers to be helpful. There was never a situation where I despised having a jungler, even though it was sort of unconventional, because the way that I started to level up summoner level wise was constantly playing Twisted Treeline because that's all I had time for. And while playing that, I always had the standard one person top and two people bottom sort of composition. But when I started to understand the importance of a jungler, it really changed my mind and how I think about it. Because think of it this way. The other team consciously knows that there's someone in the opposite jungle, and that almost instills fear that if they were to go into there, something bad could happen. Now, if they see that it's a weak jungler, as they'll probably be really low because they don't have self-sustaining abilities, then they might not be as afraid, but it's that psychological factor that, oh, two people are bottom and one person's top, I can go into their jungle. But now it's one person's top, one person's bottom, but I have to worry about whoever is in the jungle and where he is. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch the video. If there's anything I can do to improve on, add, or if the video is fine, leave a comment below and I'll be sure to check it out. As well as keep looking for more Twisted Treeline videos, as I'm trying to get the footage necessary to pump out more content and eventually cast over ranked games, just to show you guys how team fights work, how to play at a high level, and what team compositions you could probably use in your own ranked 3v3 team. So that's it for this video, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time.